All right, we all know that inflation is crazy. It's 2022. Joe Biden, no, not so much. Hey, I don't even like to get into politics so much, but I want to talk some economics here. I got some graphs I want to show you about the position that the United States is in, right? And I think that this is going to be interesting. I come at this from an entrepreneur, kind of a financial background. I'm no super guru. There's people out there smarter than me, but I think that we're in a pickle right now. And the pickle is that we got all sorts of things happening, right? And inflation continues to rise. We continue to have hiccups when it comes to our supply chain, and ultimately, government is going into the amazing, complex hand of the market, and it is taking out entire chunks of the free enterprise market, which is causing all sorts of booms and busts and inconsistencies. If you just go watch Milton Friedman, my guy back there, about the family history of a pencil, and you just look at a simple item like a pencil, how many companies and organizations and systems are in place through the free enterprise system to bring the paint, the lead, the wood, the boxes that it goes in. It is so incredibly complex, and everybody is working together in harmony in a free enterprise market, trying to pursue their own best interests and trying to create something that will be chosen by their customers. And the result is that we all work in this symphony, in this orchestra. All the suppliers, all of the people, the paint company provides the paint, and the people that need the paint, they get dyes and pigments and oils from the dyes, pigment and oil. The family tree of just a pencil is incredibly complex, and there's a ton of companies that go into it. Well, you think about the complexities of some of our items, whether it's the electronics that we use or the cameras or the phones, or now there's not even that many microprocessors. You'll see that when government comes in and takes entire countries, entire sectors inside of countries and shuts them down, it's no wonder that we have some sort of hiccups going on. And I think that ultimately the government is trying to break this on purpose in order to bring about a situation where they can swoop in and supply some things. But alas, that could all be conspiracy theory. But what we do know is that we are having the highest inflation that we've ever had since Jimmy Carter. We have Jimmy Carter stagflation, and ultimately it's not because of the silly stuff that they did in the 70s where there was an oil crisis, but really that was a government crisis that created an oil crisis. Now what we've got is a gigantic sway of movement away from productivity, away from the free enterprise system, away from rewarding individuals and entrepreneurs and business owners, and moving back towards making it harder to do business, increasing taxes on those that pursue entrepreneurship and business ownership, and those who are actually creating in this economy, and towards the bureaucratic class, right? We want to take from the oil and gas industries and fossil fuels, and we want to hand it over to the cronies. And you may disagree with me, but the cronies in green energy, right? But let's just take a look at some of these numbers. The biggest underlying problem that we have right now is that there are not enough people working. Okay, not only are there not enough people working, but we have a class of people that is the benefit class, whether they're on disability, whether they're getting paid not to work, whether they're on WIC and food stamps. Certainly people need help, but we have a new class of people. And let me just show you this first thing. So we probably got to cover this. This is about Social Security, okay? So this is the Social Security worker to recipient ratio. So now, if you didn't know this, while you work, you pay OASDI. You pay Social Security taxes, which is essentially going into this trust fund. It doesn't really exist because the government has screwed it all up. But basically, when we work, we pay 12.4% between our employers as us. If I worked for a corporation, if I made $100,000, 6.2% of that, I would pay into this Social Security trust, and then my employer would pay the other half, another 6.2. So up to the Social Security limit of $158,000 or so in 2022, there's 12.4% of all income getting shoved, and that's if you're a W-2 employee. Now, if there's things for S Corp owners and corporations and different things like that, but the bottom line is there's a 12.4% gap between my employer and me, and it goes into this trust fund to give people Social Security benefits. And there's two types of Social Security benefits. One is if you're disabled, if you've somehow had something happen to you where you can't work, right, and you have a covered activity and you're sitting around, if you're disabled, and it's not that you're sitting around, it's that you can't work. But there may be a whole group of people that could work and they're not working because they do disability fraud. But then the second group is retirees, right? Now, we've known for years that the math just doesn't work, that what we've been doing is we've been positioning too many people to get on the benefits and not supporting it with enough workers. So back when Social Security was created, you had many more workers. So what we've got here is a graph, and in 1960, you'll see that there was 5.1 workers for every covered beneficiary, for every person either on disability or retired and getting their benefits. You know, they hear, "Oh, I paid in, so I get to get my own money out." Well, politicians have been raiding that system and tweaking that system and messing with the actuary things, because people are living longer and they're paying in less, and we've broadened the ability to get these benefits is essentially what has happened. So over time, we went from 5.1 workers per beneficiary. In 1980, we had just under 3.5, and that maintained up until about 2009. Then we had the great new president, 2008. We had the Great Recession. And it was basically the great let's not work, right? It was basically, whether it was Obama phones or if it was just broad nets of new systems that people could not work, we broadened the ability and lowered the thresholds for people to get more and more benefits, right? So what we've got here is in 2009, we got this giant thing where all of a sudden, now it's not just that, to be fair, baby boomers start turning age 65 right around here, okay? And that's probably the biggest thing that people don't talk about in this economy right now, is that baby boomers were about to retire in mass, and now they all got threatened with life-threatening disease, and now they're starting to retire. But if you look at this, what's happening is you have this giant spike down under 3. So for every 3 people here, in 2009, it was 3.5 people. Now it's three people for every beneficiary. Now, if you look down to in 2021, it's 2.7 workers for every person on a benefit. So if you look at you and your neighbor, and maybe half the guy across the street, a gal across the street, that means there's one guy living on quote unquote the dole or on a benefit. And it's not the dole, but the actuarial tables are working where they're lowering. So here's what's happening. We're getting lower payouts. So I'm 40, right? If you go look at your Social Security payouts, yours is lower when you're younger, and you have to, your full retirement years are 67 and 68 compared to the baby boomers and above them. Their full retirement age, where they got 100% of their benefit or more, was at like 62, and then 63 and 64 and 60, and that keeps getting pushed back. So basically, they have to fix it, and they're kind of sticking it to young people, of course. And the way it's going, we're going to be down to 2.3 in about 10 years. So that's one problem, right? And that's a significant deal. But take a look at this other problem. Another thing that you'll see is that if you just go at the Social Security beneficiary statistics, right, you'll just see over here you've got the total number of people on benefits, right, and it goes year by year by year. And the links are in the description here. You have the total people on OSDA, which are people who are basically retired. Then you have their survivors, right? So just so you know, survivors are basically, if I worked, my wife stayed home to raise our family. People freak out about that. It happens, okay? And if I die, she gets a portion of she gets my benefit, right? Because it's only fair, and it's to help spouses who stayed home. So when you see survivor, that's what that is a lot of the times. But as you go down here, what you're going to find is that there's just this consistent drive of more and more people. Well, someone would say, you've got an increased population, but what's occurring here is that you've got a little click increase, and it all started around that first economic meltdown in 2008, 2009, right? You see a sharp incline in the use and access of Social Security, not only the benefits. So this is, the blue line is all beneficiaries. The red line are retired workers and dependents. But down here, you'll see there's something funny going on with the disabled workers and dependents. You have this uptick. You know, if these were all consistent, they just go consistently with population. Now, there is a population. I could probably overlay population, and perhaps it's right on there. I don't know. I'm not going to act like I know everything. But what I do know is that we've got a gigantic problem when it comes to the amount of workers, the amount of population to support the old folks, because we have a baby boom. Remember, baby boomers were born when their parents got done with World War II. There was about a 7-year period where we were fighting wars. We weren't making love and having babies. So there was no lovemaking and no babies, and then they all came home and there was peace. And they made a lot of babies, right? And my parents are included. And that was this giant glut of people. And it's almost like a traffic jam, right? Everybody goes to the freeway at the same time, you get a traffic jam. That's what the baby boomers are. So now what we've got is this gigantic glut of people coming in. And we have known for years that the Social Security pool that we have, or the actuarial tables where people die and tap into their benefits, use it for amount of time compared to what they paid in, and then they die, that it has not been working out. And conservatives and libertarians have been warning for years and years and years that we've got to tone back retirement benefits because the math doesn't work. And Democrats have consistently said, you're trying to take people's Social Security away. They paid that in. Give me my benefit. Well, that's only kind of true. And ultimately, it's not really going to work much longer, because here's another thing that happened. This is called the labor participation rate. Now, you can just type in the civilian labor participation rate, and this is something that between the Barack Obama era back and where we're at right now is incredibly important to pay attention to. And basically what this is unemployment rate is silly, because unemployment rate ignores people who quit looking for jobs and people who quote unquote shouldn't be employed. What labor participation rate looks at all people who are non-veterans and whatever it is, but it's basically what portion of people that ought to be working are working. Right? And if you take a look at this graph, you're seeing 66% of the population that should be working was working all the way 2007, 2008. And then all of a sudden in 2008, you have this gigantic swoop down. And it's a combination of the economic crisis and a giant influx of new benefits and broader programs that support people. And in the wake of every catastrophe you have, whether it's the 2008, 2009 financial crisis, or if it's COVID now, it's almost as if there's a group of bureaucrats that want to break things on purpose in order to get people on the programs, because when you're on the programs, then you're dependent. And when you're dependent, you can be controlled. Now, just imagine, okay? Now, as you go through, you're at 66%. These are big moves. So 66 all the way down. And this is, I remember criticizing Obama because Obama was not my guy. I was glad that we had a black president. I'm glad that was shown. His politics to me were terrible. Down to 64%. Now you have this uptick again, 2008, 2010, things move up a little bit, and then they go down even more. And they keep going down, and they keep going down, and they keep going down. Now, during this time, we're doing monetary, quantitative easing, monetary policy. We're printing money out. We're doing shovel-ready jobs. People don't remember this. Barack Obama was doing all sorts of federal jobs. We got Cylinder and all these scandals that Sean Hannity tried to hammer Obama on, right? You got all the Fox News and Obama criticizing all the way down, 2014. We're down to 62%. We hit this super low in 2015, right? And then it starts to go up for some reason around 2016. It's as if when you lower taxes and reduce bureaucratic nonsense, all of a sudden what happens? Something happens around 2016. Wonder what that is. Do you suppose who's in office and the type of policies that get in cause people to work and cause uplift? I think they do, okay? And what happens is you've got this consistent uptick up until the great whoosh. Now that's the COVID, right? So COVID comes in, it spikes all the way down to 60%, which is it's off the charts low. It's never been that low. Right? We're in uncharted territory, but look at where we've rebounded to. We are not anywhere where we were even during the worst part of the financial crisis. And what's happening right now is people are getting paid not to work. I'll do another video on this, but there's some things going out there that are explaining that in most states right now, when you sign up for full-fledged benefits, along with some of the spiffs that we have to keep people floated during the pandemic, that you've got between $40,000 and $55,000 being made equivalencies by people on full programs. Now, is that an abundant life? I don't think so. But the problem is that the equivalent, if you do go work, a big change happens. You have to pay taxes, and you have a cost to get to work, and you have a cost to daycare. And the equivalency is that you need to make about $65,000 working to make up for $55,000 in benefits or $50,000 in benefits. So what happens there is you start swiping out a whole group of people between basically $65,000 and under. If you're making under $65K, there's a new compelling reason why you shouldn't go work. Now, we're doing it in order to help people because of a pandemic, but I don't think we have a problem with COVID. I think we have a government problem, and that government has gotten its paws on a new boogeyman that's going to allow them to continue to hammer on our free enterprise system. And remember, the bottom line is by shutting down big countries and systems in the free enterprise system, the family tree of a pencil is complex. The family tree of our complex goods are 10,000 times more complex. And what we're seeing right now is there's some simple, fundamental economic problems where not enough people are working, too many people are staying home, and we have a groundswell of baby boomers tapping into this stuff, and the benefits are going out the roof. Now what we're going to do is we're going to continue to shut down domestic oil production. We're going to make it harder for people to start businesses in some of the supply chains that I think we should probably reattract. For example, so long story short, if you want to make things, right, with the EPA coming up to have as many laws to protect our planet as possible, what happens is it gets really hard to manufacture things. Plus, we have the insanity. The absolute insanity. I'm going to take a shot here. Here in Minnesota, we want wind turbines all over America. We want wind turbines from here to North Dakota. Wind turbines everywhere, and yet we won't open our own domestic copper mine because we want to protect our water. Where do you think all that copper comes from that's inside of your wind turbines, you dinks? Like, wind turbines are chock full of copper. They have to carry copper everywhere. The motor's a giant thing of copper. And yet, we feel much better if we ship it from China, or we like South America and Argentina. I don't even know where the copper mines are right now. I did a little bit of homework, but we want foreign copper instead of us controlling copper. And you just play that movie forward where we're not allowing ourselves to easily get into industries that kind of have a messy side to them, right? But we'd rather just have China do that. That makes no sense to me. We need to start securing some local manufacturing here. And I think there's a value prop for it. I think that businesses will like the idea of having a consistent supply chain from U.S.-driven suppliers. But the problem is that people won't work if you got to pay them too much. And it's not that you have to pay people a living wage. It's that you're competing against the government. Good luck. God bless. This is fun. No matter what, even if you disagree with me, guys, it's just more fun to have these conversations online. I appreciate all the comments. Like and subscribe. We do entrepreneurship. We do financial stuff like this. And our hope is that just helps move a needle upward and forward towards people starting businesses, people voting for free enterprise markets, and realize that people pursuing their own best interest in order to create goods and services that people will choose because you're moral, because you're good, you do good business. That's the free enterprise system, and that is the superior system. God bless.